She announced, "You're not in my financial league. You're not husband material." I just nodded, "All right." Then I sent one message and finished my drink. Minutes later, a corporate helicopter landed on the roof, and she froze when the pilot addressed me as Chairman. My name is Adrian Hale, 32 years old. On paper, most people think I'm just an ordinary office worker. At least people like Alina and her friends do. I dress simply, live quietly, drive an unremarkable car, don't wear $100,000 watches, and don't check in at luxury restaurants. But that's only the facade I choose. The truth is, I am the chairman of a multi-sector investment conglomerate. I oversee deals worth hundreds of millions of dollars every year. I have a private security team and a fleet of corporate helicopters on standby. I intentionally live like an average man to avoid being exploited. No one in this room knows that. Not even Alina, the person I once thought I could build a long future with, has any idea. Partly because she never asked. Partly because she was too busy caring about her own glamorous image. And Alina? She's 27, beautiful, ambitious, from a well-off background. Not exactly a bad person, but obsessed with validation. The more people praised her wealth, the more people pursued her, the more she felt elite. Her friends are the same, young, wealthy, famous, but lacking depth. Tonight they came to drink, flaunt designer brands, and make others feel small. And they thought I was the easiest target. I looked around. Neon lights reflected off the glass in my hand, the wine rippling with the heartbeat of those waiting to see me humiliated. I shrugged. "You're right." That simple answer threw the whole room off balance. Alina blinked. She didn't look pleased. She seemed to expect a strong reaction, something to make her look more pitiful in front of her friends. But I didn't play along. I took out my phone. I didn't open finance apps or check messages. I just typed 3 words, "Pick me up," and sent it. A normal text, to everyone in the room. But to the one receiving it, it was a command. I slipped my phone into my pocket and finished my drink. Alina folded her arms and stepped closer, as if trying to seal off any chance of retreat. "You have nothing for me to be proud of. All my friends say you're just a mediocre man. I don't want to live with someone like that." I listened, saying nothing. I'd heard these lines from her many times recently. "You dress too simply." "My friends say you look more like an employee than someone successful." "Why don't you invest in your image more?" "Why don't you aim for bigger opportunities?" She had no idea I'd let go of dozens of bigger opportunities, just to stay under the radar. She continued, louder now and purposely glancing at her friends so they'd witness it. "You have no clear future. If I marry you, people will laugh at me." Marcus laughed, raising his glass toward her. "You deserve someone on your level." Hearing that, the group nodded. Some even whistled in support. I stood among them, yet felt like I was on another planet. Untouched. Unshaken. They didn't know that my silence was the calm before the storm. A girl from the group stepped closer and asked in a half-teasing, half-serious tone, "Do you have anything to keep Alina here? Anything to say? Or are you giving up completely?" I looked at her and smiled softly. "No. I don't keep anyone." That sentence made the whole group raise their eyebrows. They thought I was being arrogant. But in truth, it was simple. I never tried to own anyone. Marcus, however, didn't stop. He moved closer, his expensive cologne overpowering the scent of wine. "Want a drink? Or is this too pricey for someone like you?" I tilted my head away from the glass he offered. My reaction irritated him. He laughed. "Just by the way you stand, I can tell. You're not someone with money. Do you even know how much this bottle costs?" I looked at him for a second. No rebuttal. No need. Alina jumped back in. "See? He's invited here yet looks like he doesn't belong. I've tried to help him fit in, but it's too hard." I sighed lightly. Not out of heartbreak, but because I realized she had crossed the line, and that I had given her far too many chances to show she was different from most people I'd met. But it seemed I was wrong. Interestingly, while they were speaking, I noticed a few people eyeing me with suspicion. Not suspicion of my abilities, but of my composure. The kind of composure only people who've dealt with truly high-pressure situations possess. But before they could guess more, the window glass trembled. A few people flinched and looked around. "Strong wind?" someone asked. "No. Not wind." I knew that sound well. The low thrum of helicopter blades descending, cutting through noise-proof glass. And only one helicopter group was authorized to fly this close to the penthouse. Mine. I remained still. Then the vibration grew stronger, steadier. The first person to truly sense something was wrong wasn't me, but a girl from Alina's group. She stepped back. "I think a helicopter just landed on the rooftop." Marcus laughed. "No way. No one's allowed to land here except the—" He didn't finish because the hallway warning lights turned yellow. A distinctive sound echoed, "VIP approaching." Even the most arrogant faces froze. The rooftop doors burst open. Wind whipped in, sending scarves, papers, and even a few glasses tipping over. A pilot stepped inside, dressed in sleek black uniform, cap low over his eyes. His steps were quick but precise, and he didn't look at anyone but me. The room parted in an invisible line as he walked forward. He stopped right in front of me and bowed. His voice rang out clear in the dead silence. "Chairman, the emergency meeting is ready. The board is waiting for you." That was the moment everything shifted. The room seemed frozen. Only their eyes moved, from surprise to shock to fear. Alina's mouth fell open. Marcus went stiff as stone. Her friends stared at each other like they had just mocked someone far, far beyond their reach. As for me, I simply smiled gently. I turned to Alina. She stammered, her voice cracking. What are you?" I stepped closer, standing tall, looking into her trembling eyes, and said, "I told you. You're right. I'm not in your league." The entire room fell dead silent after that, "Chairman, sir." If someone had accidentally dropped a glass onto the floor, I'm not sure I would have heard it. My ears weren't ringing from shock, but from the absolute stillness inside me. The kind of silence that only comes when you finally see everything revealing its true form. Alina stood in front of me, eyes wide, lips trembling. The same person who had loudly declared I was not husband material, could now barely find a word to call me. I looked at her and repeated slowly, once more, "I told you. You're right. I'm not in your league." Only this time, everyone in the room understood exactly what that meant. Marcus was the first to try to break the tension. "Wait, this is a joke, right? Chairman, what?" The pilot turned and glanced at him, eyes cold as ice, before refocusing on me with the same respectful posture. "Sir, we can wait a few minutes if you wish. But the board is already online." I nodded lightly. "Give me 5 minutes." "Yes, sir." He stepped back, standing near the door, waiting. His demeanor, and the small comms device in his ear, made it clear this wasn't a prank. Wasn't a performance. I turned and scanned the room. Faces that had once been confident, laughing loudly while Alina belittled me. What now? A girl who had earlier asked, "Do you have anything that could make Alina stay?" now stared down at the floor, trying to avoid my eyes. A guy who had said, "He's probably only invited to fill the attendance list," was inching toward the corner like he wished he could disappear. Some weren't stupid enough to keep viewing me as trash. They started connecting the dots. My calm demeanor all night. My lack of reaction to their insults. For a short text, followed by the arrival of a helicopter. They looked at each other as if asking, "What the hell did we just do?" Marcus, however, still refused to accept the truth. He took a breath, forced a stiff smile, trying to salvage his dignity. "Chairman, huh? Cute. So where do you work? A startup? Or like a fancy title for fun?" I didn't bother answering. But the pilot wasn't as patient as I was. He looked straight at Marcus, voice polite but sharp as a blade. "Sir, we belong to the operations unit of Hale Global Holdings. If you have doubts about the chairman's title, you may check with any financial outlet in the world tomorrow morning. A sharp clack sounded. Someone dropped their phone. I heard a whisper, "Hail, Global? Wait, isn't that the corporation that just acquired this hotel chain?" I saw Marcus's mouth twitch. He turned to Alina as if seeking backup, but she was drowning in her own shock. I looked at her, and for a moment I remembered how we first met. It was at a tiny cafe, not a rooftop bar, not some glamorous networking event. That day I was working on my laptop, finishing a report for a pending deal. Alina walked in, ordered the wrong drink, then argued with the barista because the sweetness wasn't right. I remember thinking, this girl is really difficult. But when she sat down, still irritated, I saw exhaustion behind the annoyance. She told me, carelessly, that her boss had scolded her over a small mistake, that her friends mocked her for not keeping up with their lifestyle standards. She said she hated being judged by the size of her wallet. Maybe that's why I softened. I started a conversation, told her a few random stories. She laughed, and that laugh had no arrogance in it. In the beginning, Alina was different. She liked hearing me talk about street food stalls. She liked late-night walks in the park. She liked that I didn't show off, didn't pretend to be some ideal man. So I chose to hide who I was. If she liked me when she thought I was just Adrian, the regular office worker, then maybe she'd be someone I could trust. But as time passed, her new friends appeared. With their whispers, "What does your boyfriend do? Why doesn't he look rich? He should at least drive something nice." Alina began to change. Her accidental comments grew more frequent. "Aren't you going to aim higher? Don't you plan to buy a bigger place? Don't you want me to be proud of you?" And I always had the same answer. "I'm fine." Maybe that was my mistake. I gave her too much space to draw her own picture of me, a picture of a simple man with no ambition. And once she believed in that picture, she began to look down on it. "Adrian," Alina's voice cracked, as if someone had tightened a hand around her throat. I turned. She stepped closer, her hands trembling. Everyone around us fell silent. Even Marcus stepped back, afraid to be involved. You're truly a chairman?" she asked, forcing her voice steady. I shrugged. Did I ever say I wasn't? She swallowed hard and gave a warped smile. "I just thought you were a regular office worker." "I never said that was the whole story." My voice was calm, but each word hit like stone. She gasped for breath. "Then, why didn't you tell me? Why should I?" I looked straight into her eyes. "So you could know how much money I had before deciding whether to respect me?" She bit her lip, gripping her glass so tightly her knuckles went white. "No, that's not, I didn't mean." I let out a short, humorless laugh. "Didn't mean it? Then what exactly did you say earlier? You're not in my financial league. You're not worthy to be my husband. Remember that." Her face paled. She looked around, hoping someone would defend her. But no one spoke. They were too busy replaying her words against the word chairman that had just echoed. Marcus, unable to endure the silence, jumped in. Alina was just joking. "We all had too much to drink." I turned to him, still calm. "You don't remember saying this drink is probably too expensive for your budget? Should I write down the bar tab and send it to your assistant? Maybe it'll be too heavy for your budget." His face flushed red. For the first time tonight, he was speechless. Not because I yelled, but because I was perfectly polite. The kind of politeness that makes a person twice as ashamed. I looked back at Alina. "Do you know what I find funniest?" She didn't answer. "It's not that you didn't know who I was. It's that you felt safe humiliating someone you thought had nothing, in front of your friends. You think if I really were just some regular office clerk, you'd have the right to treat me that way." Alina opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her eyes were glistening. I felt pressured, my friends. I understand pressure. I cut in. I understand being judged because of money. I understand being looked down on because people can't see the full picture. You once said you hated that. I believed you. And then you did the exact same thing to me. Some people in the room lowered their heads. Perhaps in some way they realized they were more like Alina than they thought. Adrian, listen to me please, she said, voice shaking. I just wanted you to try harder. I wanted to feel safe. The pilot at the door cleared his throat gently, reminding me of the time. I raised a hand. He understood and waited. I looked at Alina. You wanted safety from a bank account? Just say so. But don't confuse that with love. They're not the same. She shook her head frantically. No, I love you. I do. I only said those things because I was drunk. I didn't think. You were very sober, Alina. You even chose your words carefully. Not in my financial league, not husband material. Drunk people don't speak in perfect sentences. Her eyes filled with tears. But I no longer saw the girl from the cafe. I saw someone terrified of losing something she thought she owned. Near the back stood a quiet middle-aged man, an investor from a recent hotel deal. He looked at Alina, then at me, and said slowly, Young man, no, Chairman Hale, you don't owe anyone here an explanation. He turned to the group. You've used the word league all night. Yet none of you seem to know what it means. League isn't the car, the watch, or the drink. It's standing there, being insulted in front of everyone, and not raising your voice once. The room sank even deeper into silence. I nodded to him in thanks. Alina grabbed my hand for the first time tonight. Adrian, please. Don't leave me like this. If I had known who you were, I never would've. That's the problem, Alina, I said, voice low. If you'd known who I am, you wouldn't have said what you said tonight. But I need someone who would never say those words, even when they think I'm nobody. She froze. I'm not angry because you didn't know I'm a chairman. I just don't want to stay with someone who thinks they have the right to humiliate others when they believe those people are beneath them. I gently removed her hand from mine. I used to think you were different, I said. Tonight you proved I was wrong. A tear rolled down her cheek. Can't you give me another chance? She whispered. I'll change. You don't need to promise me anything, I interrupted. If you want to change, do it for yourself, not for me or because I'm a chairman. As for me, I turned to the pilot. I have work to do. He nodded. I looked around the room one last time, faces full of embarrassment, confusion, silence. Some tried stepping forward to shake my hand but stopped halfway, unable to find the words. I wasn't angry at them. Honestly, they didn't matter much. They were merely a magnified image of the real world, where people assign your value based on what they see on the surface. I said just one sentence, loud enough for all to hear. I hope after tonight, every time you use the word league, you'll think a little more carefully. Then I turned and walked toward the door leading to the rooftop pad. Right then, I heard behind me, Adrian. Alina's voice broke. I stopped, but didn't turn. Wind from the rooftop blew in, carrying the scent of fuel and the steady thrum of rotor blades. Adrian, if I hadn't said those things tonight, if I had just stayed silent, would things be different? She asked, voice cracking. I closed my eyes for a second. They would, I said, still facing away. I'd still get on this helicopter. But I would have invited you to come with me. Behind me, I heard her break into sobs. I didn't turn back. Not because I felt nothing, but because I knew that if I looked at her tear-streaked face now, I'd see the old version of myself, someone who believed that being good to others would ensure they never hurt him. But I'm not that Adrian anymore. The pilot opened the door for me, wind hitting my face. The rotor sounded like the heartbeat of another world waiting beyond. I placed my hand on the frame, ready to step in. Behind me, Alina still called my name. And just as my foot left the floor, the phone in my pocket vibrated. A call from the corporate legal department. That call, and the decision I made afterward, would seal every door between me and Alina for good. The wind from the helicopter blades slapped against my face, cold and stinging. Not an unpleasant feeling, more like someone splashing icy water on you to wake you from a long, heavy dream. I stepped onto the metal stairs, gripping the handrail. Behind me, Alina's voice still echoed, but the roar of the rotor was already swallowing it whole. I sat down and fastened the seatbelt. The door shut with a loud, decisive clack, the same sound another door in my life was making. The pilot tilted his head toward me. "Sir, shall we take off?" I gave a single nod. The helicopter lifted off, carrying me away from the party filled with regretful stares, away from Alina's cruel words, and away from the version of myself from a year ago, the man who chose to trust someone who wasn't ready to love sincerely. As the building shrank beneath me, I felt light. For the first time in months, the helicopter landed atop the headquarters, the place where I had spent most of my adult life building my career. Layers of glass reflected the blue night like the walls of a modern fortress. The rooftop was quiet except for the warm yellow lights and the 2 security officers waiting there. I stepped out. One of them spoke. "Sir, the board is already waiting in the strategic meeting room." I nodded. No one asked about the party. No one pried out of curiosity. My team knew very well. My private life was never a topic for gossip. That was why I chose them. The meeting room was bright. 12 people sat around the long table, eyes turning toward me. Several screens showed shareholders from other countries. When I entered, everyone stood, an old habit they'd maintained for years. "We have urgent business tonight," I said, calm but firm. "Let's begin." And so the meeting went on for nearly an hour and a half, about a deal that, if not handled immediately, could cause major stock fluctuations by morning. But something strange happened. Throughout the meeting, my mind wasn't hollow. I worked as usual, but deep inside, a small space had opened up. Not a painful void, simply a place no longer occupied by anyone. When the meeting ended, I walked out into the long, quiet hallway, my footsteps echoing cleanly. I wasn't thinking about Alina anymore. Or about her words, "You're not worthy." But the moment I took out my phone to check emails, it buzzed non-stop. 5 missed calls, 9 missed calls, 17 missed calls, all from Alina. Messages poured in too, as if someone was typing in panic. "Where are you? I'm sorry. I only said those things because of my friends, I didn't mean it. Can you let me explain? Adrian, please." I locked the screen. Not because I was angry, but because it was too late. I woke up later than usual. Not from exhaustion, but because I'd worked until nearly 4 a.m. cleaning up after the deal. When I stepped out of the bedroom, my personal assistant, Emma, was already waiting at the dining table like every morning. "Good morning, Chairman," she said. Would you like to see the morning news?" I looked at her expression. She was trying not to laugh. "Let me guess. Last night made the headlines?" Emma cleared her throat. "It wouldn't have if someone hadn't live-streamed from the 58th floor, and unfortunately, some clips spread." I turned on the wall display. Instantly, the headlines flooded in. Unexpected identity of the man humiliated by his girlfriend at the penthouse. Chairman Hale arrives at youth luxury party via helicopter. The classiest comeback of the month. The entire room froze when they heard the word chairman. Emma added softly, "Would you like us to take the clips down? We can contact the platforms." I thought for a moment, then shook my head. "No need. People will forget in a few days." Emma nodded. "One more thing. Ms. Alina has called the office 23 times since morning." I paused, setting down my coffee cup. "Did she say anything?" "She said, she wants to see you in person. She's waiting downstairs." "Of course she is." I exhaled slowly. "Bring her to Lounge 7. Emma looked slightly surprised. "You want to see her?" "I do," I said. "But not to get back together." Lounge 7 was secluded, with clear glass and full soundproofing. It was designed for important partners, or, in this case, a conversation I wanted kept private. When I entered, Alina was sitting on the chair, clutching her purse, eyes swollen. The arrogance from last night was gone. The smugness vanished. All that remained was a woman terrified of losing what she finally realized she'd taken for granted. She shot to her feet when she saw me. "Adrian, please. Don't leave me. I was wrong. I only said those things because I was under pressure, because my friends, because Alina." I cut her off. "Sit." She sat. Her hands trembled violently. I looked at her for a few seconds, not to torment her, but to remind myself that whatever I felt for her had truly ended. "Last night," I said, "you were honest. Those words weren't because you were drunk or pressured. They were what you really believe." "No," she cried, nearly choking on her own voice. I just wanted you to try harder. I wanted you to be more successful so I could feel safe." "That's the point," I said. "You didn't think I was successful. Because I didn't show off. Didn't flaunt wealth. Didn't wear a $500,000 watch. Didn't drive a sports car. Didn't wear designer brands." She fell silent. I leaned back in my seat and continued. "You said I wasn't worthy of being your husband. Because you thought you were above me." Tears streamed down her face. "I was wrong. I didn't know who you were. If I had known, I would never have." "Of course," I interrupted. "Because if you'd known I was a chairman, you would have behaved differently. You'd be kinder. More cautious. You wouldn't dare say what you said." I met her eyes. "But I don't need someone who's only kind when they know I'm rich." She bit her lip until it bled. "Adrian, I love you." I tilted my head slightly, studying her the way I would examine a broken contract. "You love me," I said, "or you love the status you think I should have so you won't feel ashamed?" She broke down completely. She collapsed to her knees before me, sobbing. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Adrian, please don't leave me." I closed my eyes for a moment. This was the part where many people would soften. But I didn't. I bent down and gently helped her stand. Not cold. Not angry. Just calm. "Alina, I don't hate you. I'm not angry. I just don't love you anymore." She shook her head desperately. "Don't say that. Adrian, please. I'll change. I swear. You'll change," I said, "but not for me. Not to keep me. You'll change because you need to become a better person." I stepped back. "As for us, we're done." She sobbed again, the sound echoing in the soundproof room like something breaking from the inside. I straightened my suit and spoke the final line. "I wish you happiness. With someone you truly respect. Even before he proves anything at all." Then I turned, walked out, and closed the door softly, yet firmly. Life returned to its usual rhythm. No drama. No noise. No penthouse laughter. Over the next 7 days, Alina called 54 more times, sent 112 messages. I didn't answer a single one. One day, Emma handed me a report. "Ms. Alina has moved out of her old apartment. She resigned from her job. Rumor says she's undergoing therapy." I only nodded. Not happy. Not sad. Just accepting. Standing by the glass wall on the 67th floor, looking at the city below, I realized something important. Some people appear in your life only to show you what you truly deserve and what you should never accept again. My phone vibrated in my pocket. Emma called. "Sir, the private jet is ready. The Japanese partners are at the airport." I smiled. "I'm on my way." I left the office, walking down the brightly lit hallway, and for the first time in many months, I felt my life aligned. No one could diminish me anymore. No one could measure my worth through their narrow lens again. And the last person who ever tried had left my life in the gentlest way I could offer her. Time passed faster than I expected. 3 months after that penthouse night, my life returned to the calm rhythm I'd always preferred. Waking up on time, working with my familiar team, signing deals big and small, taking short trips here and there, and most importantly, no more arguments about status, standards, or image. I finally had time to get close to myself again. Some days, I drove alone to the old cafe. the place where I first met Alina. Not because I missed her, but because I wanted to confirm one thing, that my heart had nothing left there. And it was true. It was empty, but not painful. A feeling clean. Emma, my assistant, once told me something I'll never forget. A right decision usually makes life lighter, no matter how much it hurts when you make it. I agree with that. Sometimes what we miss isn't the ex, but the beautiful version of them we imagined. Of course, the penthouse incident didn't disappear. Among the city's young crowd, people still whispered, the boyfriend she humiliated turned out to be a real chairman. A helicopter landed right on the rooftop. The pilot called him Sir. The ex-girlfriend was so embarrassed she wanted to disappear. But to me, it was just distant echoes. I don't live in that world. I don't need to explain myself. I don't need to prove anything. I only want peace. I thought I had completely left Alina behind. But life always has a strange paradox. The person you least want to see will show up when you are the most at peace. That afternoon, Emma knocked on my office door. Sir, someone is waiting in guest room 4. She said, you'll want to meet her. I don't like vague lines like that. Name. Alina. I didn't say anything for 3 seconds. Not angry, not startled, just silent. Give her 10 minutes, I said. Then I'll go down. Emma nodded and closed the door. I stood up, walked to the glass wall, and looked down at the city. Cars moved like tiny ants. Life went on, no matter how loud the story between me and Alina once was. I took a quiet breath. It was time to end it for real. I opened the door and walked in. Alina stood up immediately. When she saw me, she froze as if hit by a cold wind. She was thinner. The arrogance was gone. No heavy makeup. No luxury brands. Just a normal girl trying her best to stand straight. Adrian, her voice was hoarse and small. I simply nodded. Sit. She sat down, gripping her bag so tightly her hands trembled. Thank you for agreeing to see me. I said nothing. She continued. I want to say everything I didn't get to say that day. I stayed silent. Sometimes silence forces the other person to be honest. Alina took a deep breath. I've been in therapy for 2 months. I realized a lot, that I tied my self-worth to money too much, that I thought status was something that had to be proven, that I used arrogance to hide my fear of being abandoned. She looked up, her eyes red. But the worst thing is that I didn't realize I hurt the person who treated me the best. I stayed silent. Not out of coldness, but because I had already heard these apologies in my mind months ago. Alina tilted her head slightly. I'm not here to beg you to come back. I know, there's no chance. I raised an eyebrow, very subtly. She continued. I just want you to know that I truly regret it. From the bottom of my heart. And I've paid for it. How? I asked, my first words. I lost friends. Lost my job. Lost my image. Lost myself. She let out a sad laugh. No one says it out loud, but I know what they think. That I'm the girl who humiliated a chairman in front of 20 people. Yeah, I said. You did. She lowered her head. And I accept it. I blame no one. I just want to start my life over without anyone beside me, but at least, to tell you one thing. I asked slowly, what is it? She lifted her head, tears falling but her voice steady. Thank you for letting me know that real love isn't what I used to chase. The room fell silent. No music. No footstep. Just 2 people who once loved each other, now with nothing left to hold, nothing left to hurt. I said, I don't hate you, Alina. Truly. I don't want you to suffer. I just can't walk with you anymore. She nodded, trying to smile through tears. I know. I stood, signaling the end of the meeting. I hope you find someone you can love the right way. Not because he fits the standard, but because he's kind. Alina stood up and bowed deeply, a kind of bow I had never seen her give anyone. Thank you, Adrian. For everything. She turned and walked away. And for the first time, she looked small. The door closed behind her. No wait, no lingering look. Just a true ending. A month later, I was on a business trip to Japan. After a meeting, I stopped by a small tea shop in Kyoto, run by an elderly owner with broken English but a warm smile that put people at ease instantly. There, I met a girl. Not love at first sight. Not destiny. Just ease. Peace I had forgotten I needed. Her name was Aya, an architect, quiet and observant. She didn't recognize who I was. Didn't know if I was rich or not. She didn't ask. She didn't care. We talked about tea, about traditional Japanese wooden structures, about small things that warmed the heart. And in that moment I knew. Love doesn't need to be loud. It just needs the right person. And the right time. When I returned to the city, I stood at the helipad, looking at the wide stretch of sky. It was crystal clear. Alina had entered my life as an expensive lesson. Not to make me lose faith, but to teach me this. Someone who truly loves you will never demand status from you. They just want you to be kind and honest. And that is worth more than all the money in the world. I walked toward the car. Emma followed behind, asking, "Are you all right, sir?" I answered with a very soft smile. "I've been all right. For a long time." The helicopter took off behind me, making that familiar sound, the sound that once marked the biggest twist of my life. But now it was simply the sound of peace.